These upcoming real-life survival stories will blow your mind. You likely haven't heard of the last one. Have you ever pondered the true essence of survival? Is it purely the physical prowess and practical skills, or does it delve deeper into the realm of the mind and spirit? Welcome, dear listeners, to a journey into the heart of survival, where mental toughness often turns the tide in favor of life against the grimmest odds. Picture this: a plane crashes in the icy wilderness, leaving a group of rugby players stranded in the Andes for 72 days. You may already know this as the story behind the 1972 Andes flight disaster. With scant food supplies and the biting cold gnawing at their bodies, survival was a mental game as much as a physical one. The survivors themselves mentioned that their will to live and their mental resilience were what kept them going, even when their bodies were on the brink of giving up. Now, imagine a sailor lost at sea for 76 days. This was the reality for Stephen Callahan, adrift on a life raft after his boat sank in the Atlantic. With no rescue in sight and only a few provisions, he had to rely on his mental strength to endure the isolation and despair. He fished, rationed his supplies, and most importantly, kept his hope alive. His mental toughness was his true compass, guiding him towards survival. But what is this mental toughness we speak of? It is the ability to maintain focus and determination in the face of adversity, to persevere when circumstances seem dire, and to keep one's spirit unbroken even when the body is weary. It is a blend of resilience, courage, and a will of steel. In survival situations, mental toughness often becomes the deciding factor. Physical strength may wane, resources may dwindle, but a strong mind can keep hope alive. It can spur the body to keep moving, to adapt, to fight on. Take the story of Aaron Ralston, the mountaineer who trapped his arm under a boulder in a remote canyon in Utah. After 5 days of being stuck, he made the excruciating decision to amputate his own arm to free himself. It was his mental fortitude that allowed him to endure the pain, make the hard choice, and ultimately survive. Or consider Juliane Koepke, the sole survivor of a plane crash in the Peruvian jungle. She trekked through the rainforest for 11 days with a broken collarbone and severe injuries until she found help. It was her mental toughness that kept her moving despite the pain and despair. These stories stand testament to the power of the human spirit, the strength of the mind, and the importance of mental toughness in survival scenarios. They show us that survival isn't just about the gear you carry, the skills you've honed, or the strength of your body. It's about the resilience of your spirit, the determination in your heart, and the strength of your mind. Mental toughness is not just a tool for survival, it is a prerequisite. It is the flame that keeps hope alive, the anchor that keeps us grounded in adversity, and the compass that guides us towards survival. So remember, the next time you find yourself in a tough spot, dig deep within. Your mental toughness could very well be the key to your survival. Keep your spirit resilient, your heart determined, and your mind strong. For in the game of survival, the mind is your strongest ally. However, not all stories of survival end in triumph. There are instances where a lack of mental toughness led to tragic outcomes. Consider the story of Christopher McCandless, a young man who ventured into the Alaskan wilderness with a lack of preparation and an overabundance of idealism. His tragic end, alone in an abandoned bus, is a testament to the harsh reality of survival. Then there's Carl McCunn, a wildlife photographer who failed to arrange his pickup after a summer photographing wildlife in the Alaskan wilderness. His tragic end, a result of a planning oversight and a failure to adapt, reminds us of the importance of mental toughness. These stories serve as a stark reminder of the importance of mental toughness in survival situations. The consequences of a lack of mental toughness can be dire. In survival situations, your mind is your most important tool. The psychological impact of these situations is immense. Fear, panic, and despair can set in, making it hard to think clearly and make rational decisions. It's here that mental toughness comes into play. The ability to maintain a positive mindset to keep hope alive can make the difference between life and death. But the dangers of despair and giving up are real. If you lose hope, you lose the will to fight, to survive. Remember, in survival situations, giving up is not an option. Your mental toughness is your lifeline. It's what keeps you moving, keeps you fighting, keeps you alive. In the end, survival is a battle of the mind as much as it is a physical one. The stories we've shared today underline the critical role mental toughness plays in survival situations. It is the bridge between despair and hope, between giving up and fighting back. It's the spark that keeps the will to survive alive. But remember, mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate. It's built through experience, through resilience, and through determination. These survival stories aren't just about the power of the human body, but the indomitable strength of the human spirit. So keep your spirit resilient, your heart determined, and your mind strong. For in the game of survival, the mind is indeed your strongest ally. Let's turn our attention to a story that perfectly encapsulates our discussion on the power of the mind: the ordeal of Mauro Prosperi. Mauro, an Italian police officer, found himself lost in the vast expanse of the Sahara Desert during a marathon. He was stranded for 6 excruciating days without food or water under the scorching sun and freezing nights. The desert, a harsh and unforgiving environment, tested Mauro's resilience to its limit. But it was his mental toughness that steered him through the ordeal. He was faced with despair, but instead of succumbing to it, he chose to fight back. He made use of the limited resources around him, drank his own urine to prevent dehydration, and even resorted to eating insects for sustenance. Despite the grim circumstances, he never lost sight of his goal: survival. His determination and will to survive were unyielding. He kept going, pushing his body to its limits until he was finally found and rescued. Mauro's story is a true testament to the power of mental toughness. It was his mental toughness that kept him going despite the harsh conditions and despair. His story reminds us that the mind, when disciplined and determined, can be the difference between life and death. So remember Mauro's story when you find yourself in a challenging situation. Harness the power of your mind, and you too can overcome any obstacle that stands in your way. In the end, these stories show us the power of mental toughness in survival situations. We've seen how individuals like Mauro Prosperi, Stephen Callahan, and Aaron Ralston have faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious. Their stories are not just about physical survival, but also about overcoming adversity, showcasing the power of mental resilience. Each of these individuals faced extreme physical hardship, but it was their mental toughness that allowed them to survive and even thrive in the face of adversity. They did not let their circumstances define them, but rather, they defined their circumstances. They refused to be victims of their situations and chose to be survivors instead. We hope these stories inspire you to cultivate your own mental toughness. Remember, it's not just about physical strength or skills, but also about your mental resilience. Your mind is your most powerful weapon, and with it, you can overcome any obstacle that stands in your way. So we encourage you to keep pushing, keep striving, and keep surviving. Harness the power of your mind, and you too can overcome any obstacle that stands in your way. Remember, your mind is your strongest ally. And if you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more about survival, resilience, and mental toughness, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We have more survival stories and tips coming your way. Stay strong, stay resilient, and keep surviving.